Today, we're going to tackle a huge question. Was the world we're living in right now always going to happen? Or is it just one of countless possible outcomes that just happened to win? Yeah, we're going to deconstruct the very idea of destiny.
I mean, really think about it. It's so easy to look at the past like it's this perfectly straight road leading right to us, to our phones, our countries, our way of life. But what if that straight road is just an illusion? What if history isn't a highway at all, but more like a giant, tangled web of forgotten paths?
So let's really challenge that idea of history being a one-way street. We're going to start by exploring all the different forks in the road that could have led us somewhere completely different.
This is what they call the trap of hindsight, right? When we look back, it feels so obvious that we'd end up with a global culture, that certain religions would take over, and that a few languages would dominate. It just feels preordained. Like, how could it have happened any other way?
Well, this is where it gets really fun. Things could have been wildly different. Why do you speak English instead of, say, Danish? Why are Christianity and Islam global religions, while something like Manichaeism is basically extinct? A few tiny decisions, a couple of battles that go the other way, and the entire world we know today could be unrecognizable.
Let's actually zoom in on one of those critical moments. A single choice made by one person that literally changed the course of Western civilization for the next 1,700 years. Okay, so picture the Roman Empire in the early 4th century. It's massive, it's messy, and it's starting to fall apart at the seams. Emperor Constantine had this idea that a single unified religion could be the superglue to hold his crumbling empire together. But the big question was, which one?
And you have to understand, the field was wide open. Christianity wasn't some obvious frontrunner. No way. It was just one option among many, competing with these other powerful belief systems like Manichaeism, the cult of Mithras. You even had ideas floating in from Persia and India. Any one of these could have become the official religion of Rome.
And this points to something really crucial for historians. We can describe how Christianity took over. You know, we can list the events, point to the decrees, all that stuff. But we can't really explain why. Why that one over all the others? The deeper you dig, the more mysterious it all becomes. The why is often the one thing we can never truly know. Now, this deep uncertainty isn't just some quirk of ancient history. It's actually a fundamental rule of the game. And in this next part, we're going to uncover the very mechanism that makes history so incredibly unpredictable. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? The people who were actually living through these moments, the Romans under Constantine, the Russians just before the revolution, they had absolutely no idea what was coming. For them, the future was a total fog. For us, looking back, it's a history book.
I mean, look at these examples. In 306 AD, if you'd said that this small, mysterious sect called Christianity would one day rule Rome, people would have laughed at you. In 600 AD, the idea that tribes from the Arabian desert would forge a massive empire? Absurd. And in 1913, the Bolsheviks were just a tiny group of radicals. History, it turns out, is constantly being hijacked by the most unlikely candidate. So why? Why is history like this? Well, there's actually a name for it. History is what you'd call a level 2 chaotic system. Now that sounds complicated, but the idea is simple. Unlike predicting the weather, where your prediction doesn't change the weather, systems that involve humans do react to predictions about them. And that changes everything. Let me give you a really simple way to think about it. Imagine a perfect computer program predicts that oil is going to hit $100 a barrel tomorrow. So what happens? Every trader on Earth rushes to buy oil today to cash in. And the result? The price shoots up to $100 today, not tomorrow. The prediction becomes wrong precisely because it was made and people reacted to it. And that's the great paradox of revolutions. Think about it. If you could actually predict one with any certainty, the government would just do whatever it takes to stop it, right? They'd make some concessions, crack down, whatever, and the revolution would never happen. The very act of predicting it prevents it from coming true. Okay, so if history is just this chaotic, unpredictable mess, you might be wondering, what is the point of studying it at all? Let's talk about that. It's a completely fair question. If we can't find these neat, predictable laws like you can in physics, is history just a bunch of cool stories? The answer, it turns out, is a huge no.
Here's the real value, and it's so much more powerful than prediction. We don't study history to know the future, we study it to free ourselves from the past. It shows us that the way we live, the things we believe in, the countries we have, none of it is natural or set in stone. It's all just the result of a long chain of accidents, and what that means is, the future is way more open than we think.
But hold on, there is one last really challenging twist to this story. We tend to think of history as a story about us, about humanity making progress. But what if we're not the main characters at all?
We all kind of want to believe this, right? That the cultures and ideas that spread and become successful do so because they're better for people. But is that actually true? Is history really working in our favor?
Well, the stark reality is there's just no evidence for that. Zero. The success of a culture, how well it spreads and dominates, seems to have almost nothing to do with how much happiness or well-being it brings to the average person. History is not a nice story where the good guys always win.
There's a theory for why this is, and it's called memetics. It looks at ideas, things like religions, ideologies, even nationalism, not as our creations, but almost like mental parasites. A successful meme, like a virus, is simply one that's really good at making copies of itself and spreading to new people, whether it helps or hurts the person who believes it. Game theory gives us a perfect, chilling example of this: the arms race. It's a pattern of behavior that is objectively bad for everyone involved. It sucks billions of dollars away from things like healthcare and education. Yet the pattern survives and spreads because as soon as one country starts, every other country feels like it has no choice but to do the same. The idea survives, even as the people suffer.
So the final, really mind-bending takeaway is this. Maybe we aren't the main characters of history. Maybe we're just the hosts, the vehicles, for a chaotic, evolutionary battle between ideas, a battle where the only goal is for the ideas themselves to survive and replicate, not to make us happy.
The scientific revolution was another one of those totally random turns that changed everything. So, knowing what we know now, that history is a chaotic system and that it isn't necessarily looking out for us, where does that leave us? What's the next unseen fork in the road, right in front of our eyes?